Hello, my dear student. Welcome back to online class. So, in the last class, we discussed about the inflation and types of inflation, and also discussed the causes of inflation. So, today we discuss a continue part of this inflation chapter. So, let us discuss effect of the inflation. So, usually inflation has reaching effects on the economy. So, generally, inflation is beneficial to the producers, business peoples, rich class peoples, and speculators. On the other hand, it has been have an adverse effect on the poor class people, small farmers, and wages. So who are earn the wage. So the main effects of inflations are under that. First one is effect on the debtors and creditors. So inflation is beneficial to the debtors because the repayment of debt expressed in the terms of money fall and they lost less in a real term. So when they repay their loans during the period of inflation, creditors lose since the real value of the money, so which have received in the repayment of debt will be much less than the value of money which they had been previously lended. So this is the first effect of on the debtors and creditors. Second one is effect on the industrialist and businessmen. So, industrialists and businessmen belong to variable income groups. So, their income depends upon the price level. So, when price increase, the marginal of profit goes up and their money income is increased. So, at the same time, the price they require to pay, such as wage, rent, and interest, is more or less fixed. So, industrialists and business get more profit during the period of inflation than they had anticipated. So, third one is effect on the farmers. How to affect the farmers? So, during the period of inflation, agriculturists gain due to the rise in a price of food grain and other agriculture commodities. So, secondly, they cannot herd farm products and gaining from the speculative rise in prices. And thirdly, when they are paid their loans, they actually pay less than what they borrowed because of fall in the value of money. And fourth one is effects on the speculators. So how to affect? So speculator always get a benefited out of inflationary pressure. So at the during time, the inflation including in a black marketing activities and creating artificial scarcities of the goods. So this situation cause unnaturally rise in a price and they gain extraordinary benefit out this situation. And fifth one is effect of wage earners and salaried class peoples. So wage earners and salaried classes peoples belong to fixed income group suffered most in the period of inflation. So wages and salaries are more or less fixed. As the purchasing power of money fall, their real income come down. So cost of living goes up and their standard of living is declining. And sixth one, effects of investors. So investors derived income from the assets like shares and debenture and government security in which they have investment their money. So investor on the share of a company gain from inflation as they get higher rate of dividend to the higher rate of profit earned by their companies during the period of inflation. And next, effect on small savers. So small savers generally kept their savings in a bank, either in a fixed deposit account or saving bank accounts. So the income they get from the fixed deposit accounts or saving bank account remain fixed, but total income fall down on account of a fall in a value of the money. So next, effect on the balance of payment. How to affect of balance of payment? The inflation has been adverse effect on the foreign trade of a country. When the price level is high, export uh, export of goods higher price and the demand for the commodity in other countries falls. So at the same time, export will be less than import. There will be deficit in the balance of payment. The country will have faced several foreign exchange difficulties. And next, effect on the hoarding of currency. As a volume of currency fall down during the inflation, people may hoard their wealth not in the term of currency notes but in the terms of other asset like gold, silver, real estate. These are all the form in the money. So if permitted, they may even wealth abroad in term of foreign currency which are more stable in a value. Next, price wage spiral. So, inflation is responsible for price wage spiral. So, when the price rise, trade union demand higher wage for the laborers. So, the rise in a wage will be increase the cost of goods and forces the produce to rise the price of their produced goods. So, the price wage is prospectively during the inflation time. Next, effect on the distribution of income. Uh, at the time of inflation, price will be rising and the value of money will be following. So, but as the price do not rise, unfortunately, value of money possessed by the different people varies differently. So the distribution of income within the country becoming unequal. So next, anti-social effect. So during the inflation, demonetization, strikes, lockouts, these are all things come under the inflational time. So at the time, by the organized people will be quite common. So further, black markets, hoarding. So these are all things also seen. It additional corruption will be ramped all over the nation. So these are all the effects of the inflation. So next we move on to the measures to control the inflation. So already, as inflation is harmful, it should be a controlled. Various measures are usually adopted to effect of the inflation. So measure that can be taken from the control of inflation. So first measure is monetary measurement. So monetary measures refers to measures implied by the central banks of the country. The best remedy for reducing the effect of inflation, it is reduce the aggregate spending. So the pressure of demand on the existing stock of commodities can be considerably reduced, increasing the cost of borrowings and reducing the capacity commercial banks to credit. So creation of the credits, the central bank will be have followed a money policy and adopting following important measures to control the inflation. So first one is affecting the reduction in the volume of currency issued by the central bank. So it additional issues of new currency notes can be prevented to the suppress the intensity of inflation. And next, enforcing control on the value of the credit creation by the commercial banks. So this can be done by the adopting quantitative and qualitative credit control measures. So this is the first measures of a control inflation. So next, fiscal measures. So these are measures undertaken by the government with the regard to taxation, expenditure, public borrowings. So taken the form of fiscal measures. So first one is increased taxation. Taxes determine the size of disposable income in the hands of a public. In the case of inflation, proper policy will be avoid tax cuts or introducing some increasing in the existing rate so as to reduce the purchasing power in the hands of people. So second, increasing borrowing by the government from the public. So during the time of inflation, government has been encouraging public borrowing in the form of issuing of bonds, securities and debentures, etc. So once this is open for the public, for the time being, we see that shift of excess money from the hands of public to the government. Third one is reduced expenditure. To minimum inflationary pressures in an economic in a underdeveloped countries is unplanned government expenditure should be kept under the control. So these measures take to too much circulation of money in the economy and thereby the control of inflation. So next control or measures is under that, in addition to monetary or fiscal measures, there are certain measures to control the inflation. So first one is wage policy. In order to control inflation, cost push inflation, wage should be kept under the control. The wage rate can be increased only when productivity of labor increases. If possibly, wage may be imposed. And second one is price control and rationing. Inflation leads to expansion of supply of money and increase in the price. So the price of essential consumer goods must be prevented from the rising through price control, rationality or rationing, etc. in the initial stage of development. Third, saving schemes. So, voluntarily and compulsorily, saving scheme initiated by the government may absorb excess money with the public and reducing the effective demand for the goods, lower the prices. Next, selection of proper projects. The pattern of investment should be such that a large fund following by projects which are quick yielding so that the output increase with a short time, and investment of funds on project which has been low gestation period will contribute to the fixed supply goods to meet the demand for the goods and helps to reducing the prices. Next, imports. So larger imports of goods may improving the supply position within the country and thereby the contributed to the reduction in the price. So such step is possibly only if a balance of payment is position permitted. Next, higher output. Higher output in the public as well as in private sector will increase the supply of goods and contribute to the fall in the price. Next, private sector investment to the control to be controlled. To control inflation in an effective manner, the investment pattern in the private sector should be a controlled fund should be a preventing from the following input unproductive and undesirable challenge of the investment. So from the remedial measures, it clear that it is not possible to and any particular measures as control of inflationaries or inflationaries. So next we move on to the inflationary gap. So Keynes tried to explain the phenomenon of inflation in the term of his well-known concept of inflationary gap. Keynesian analysis of demand inflation has been expressed in the term of concept of inflationary gap to emphasize the importance of flow money income in influencing the general price level. In addition to that, he wants to show the great relevance of fiscal measures such as taxation and public borrowing in whipping out the inflationary gap. An inflationary gap for the economy as whole may be defined as an excess of anticipated expenditure over the available output at the base price. So, analysis of inflation gap in the term of aggregates such as national income, investment outlay, and consumption expenditure clearly reveals what determined the public policy with the regarding to taxes, public expenditures, saving, credit control, and wage adjustment. So next we can explain inflationary gap through diagram. So here we can see the diagram. So consumption is represented here as a function of real income and the customer manner assume a large level of I plus G, that is investment plus government spending. So let also assume that this level of real spending is independent of the price level. The total desired real expenditure at each possible level of real income is shown by the line of C plus I plus G. If there were no limit on the real output, income would be raised to Y x2, where real expenditure would be equal real output as shown by the intersection point D. So with the 45-degree construction line. So let us suppose that existing of full employment limit on a real output, that is YFN, then the real income cannot reach yx or yx at yfn total demand axis total output. It is leaving an inflationary gap equal to the AB in the figure. This inflationary gap would be cost price of rice, but this does not or does nothing to eliminate the gap. Inflation proceeds without limits unless and until there are indirect effect of the rising price either on consumption or investment of government expenditure sufficient to the eliminated the gap. So thank you for watching.